Close your eyes now and let your breath settle into a slow, steady rhythm. Let the tension of the day simply evaporate, rising off your shoulders like mist in the morning sun. We are going to take a journey back in time, drifting backward through the decades, past the noise and the rush of the modern world, until we arrive at a quieter place, a place of sepia tones and soft, natural light. Imagine, if you will, a world poised on the edge of change. It is the early 20th century. The year is 1917. The air feels different here, cleaner perhaps, filled with the scent of rain on pavement and the faint, sweet aroma of blooming gardens. There is a sense of optimism that permeates the atmosphere, a belief in the wonders of science and the endless possibilities of the future. It was a time when the mysteries of the universe were being unlocked, one by one, revealing secrets that dazzled the imagination. In this era of discovery, there was one element that captured the world's fascination more than any other. It was called radium. Even the name sounds powerful, radiant, like a beam of light cutting through the darkness. It was discovered by Marie and Pierre Curie, a substance that seemed to defy the laws of nature because it glowed with its own internal energy. It was beautiful. It was mesmerizing. It was, or so everyone believed, a miracle. It is strange to look back now, with the wisdom of hindsight, and remember that this substance was once considered a cure-all, a tonic, a source of vitality and health. But tonight, we are not looking through the lens of tragedy. We are simply standing in the moment as it was then, witnessing the beauty before the storm. Let us drift into the town of Orange, New Jersey. It is a bustling, industrious town, filled with red brick factories and tree-lined streets. Among these buildings stands a two-story structure, the home of the United States Radium Corporation. But to the young women who work there, it is more than just a factory. It is a place of opportunity. It is a place of independence. Imagine entering the studio on the second floor. The room is spacious and airy, with high ceilings that let the air circulate freely. Large industrial windows line the walls, allowing streams of golden sunlight to pour in, illuminating the dust motes that dance in the air like tiny, suspended stars. The room is filled with rows of long wooden tables, their surfaces worn smooth by years of work. Seated at these tables are the women. They are young, so very young. Many are just teenagers, with their whole lives stretching out before them like a calm ocean. They are dressed in their everyday frocks, cotton dresses with high collars, hair pinned up in the styles of the time, perhaps a few loose tendrils framing their faces as they lean over their work. There is a feeling of camaraderie here. A gentle hum of conversation floats above the tables, the sound of quiet laughter, the sharing of secrets and dreams. They talk about the dances they will attend on the weekend, the boys they admire, the dresses they wish to buy with their wages. For these women, this job is a blessing. It pays well, far better than other factory work. It is clean work. It is artistic work. It offers them a sense of agency in a world that is rapidly changing. Watch their hands now, steady and graceful. They are dial painters. Their task is delicate, requiring a touch as light as a feather. In front of them sit trays of watch dials, small, round ceramic discs destined for the wrists of soldiers overseas and civilians at home. These watches are special. They are designed to be read in the dark, to glow with a steady, unyielding light. To achieve this, the women use a special paint. It is a mixture of glue, water, and a fine, yellowish powder containing radium. The company calls it Undark, a poetic name for something that banishes the night. The process is rhythmic, almost meditative. Watch as a young woman, let us call her Grace, picks up her brush. It is a camel hair brush, incredibly fine, coming to a point that is barely visible to the naked eye. To paint the tiny numerals on the watch dials, the brush must be perfect. It must be sharp. And so, she performs the technique she was taught, the technique they were all taught. It is a movement that becomes second nature, a muscle memory that guides their days. Lip, dip, paint. She brings the brush to her lips, pointing the bristles with the moisture of her mouth to create a perfect tip. She dips the brush into the luminous green paint, catching a small droplet of the glowing liquid. She paints the number onto the dial, a smooth, curving stroke of light. Lip, dip, paint. Lip, dip, paint. There is a hypnotic quality to it. The repetition is soothing. The room is quiet, save for the scratching of chairs and the soft murmurs of friends. The sunlight shifts across the floor as the hours pass, marking the time just as surely as the watches they are creating. There is an innocence here that is almost heartbreakingly beautiful. They had no reason to be afraid. They were told the paint was safe, that it would put a glow in their cheeks, that it was beneficial. And so they worked with joy. They worked with pride. The paint itself, it was truly a thing of wonder. In the dim corners of the studio, or if a cloud passed over the sun, the little pots of paint would glow with a soft, pale green luminescence. It was like capturing fireflies in a jar, or holding a piece of the moon in your hand. It was magical. This magic didn't just stay on the dials. It found its way onto the women themselves. It was in the dust that settled on their clothes. It was on their fingertips. It was on their lips. When they walked home in the twilight, after the long shift was over, they were not just factory workers. They were something ethereal. The locals began to call them the Ghost Girls. Imagine walking down a quiet street in New Jersey in the early evening. The gas lamps are just flickering to life. And there, walking arm in arm, are a group of young women. As they pass through the shadows, they seem to shimmer. Their clothes dust a faint light into the air. Their hair sparkles as if dusted with diamond powder. Even their smiles seem to glow. They embraced this radiance. It was a novelty, a delightful secret. Before a date or a party, some of the girls would paint their fingernails with the radium mixture. They would paint their teeth so that when they smiled in the dark, their mouths would shine. They would sprinkle the powder in their hair to look like they were wearing a crown of stars. It was playful. It was fun. It was the spirit of the roaring 20s, a time of excess and experimentation, manifested in a glowing jar of paint. Let us linger here for a moment, in this period of calm, before the pain, before the court cases, before the headlines. Let us appreciate the simple human moments of their lives. Picture the lunch breaks, the women gathering outside on the steps of the factory, enjoying the fresh air, sharing sandwiches wrapped in wax paper, the sun warming their faces. They were friends, sisters, cousins. They were a community. They helped each other mix the paint. They corrected each other's work. They leaned on one another. There is a specific memory of a girl named Catherine. She is sitting at her desk, the afternoon light fading into the purple hues of dusk. She has finished her quota for the day. She looks down at her hands. They are glowing. She rubs them together, and the light smears like stardust. She smiles to herself, thinking of how beautiful it looks. She feels special. She feels part of something important. The work required immense focus. To paint a watch dial, one needs a steady hand and a calm mind. The numbers are small, the curves precise. The number 8, the number 3, the number 6. Each one requires a specific turn of the wrist. The women became artists of the miniature. They took pride in the neatness of their trays, rows and rows of glowing faces looking back at them. The studio was a world unto itself, a world of quiet industry and soft light. The smell of the adhesive, the chalky texture of the powder, the taste of the brush. It was a sensory experience that defined their youth.
Time seemed to move differently in that studio. Perhaps it was because they were surrounded by the instruments of time, thousands of watches ticking away the seconds. Or perhaps it was the repetitive nature of the work, the mantra of lip, dip, paint, that put them into a trance-like state. Imagine the sound of the supervisor's footsteps walking down the aisle, checking the trays. "Good work, girls," he might say.
Keep it up. The feeling of approval, the satisfaction of a job well done, the knowledge that they were contributing to the war effort, helping soldiers read their watches in the trenches, or helping nurses check a pulse in a dimly lit ward. They believed they were doing good, and in a way, they were. They were pouring their energy, their youth, and ultimately their lives into these small objects of utility and beauty. As the sun sets completely on our scene, the factory windows go dark from the outside. But inside, if you were to peek through the glass, you would see a galaxy. The leftover dust on the tables, the aprons hanging on the hooks, the rags used to wipe the brushes, they all glow with that ghostly, pale green light. A silent constellation in an empty room. It is peaceful here. The machines are silent, the voices are gone. Only the light remains. A light that does not fade. A light that does not sleep. We rest here, in the quiet of the 1920s, holding this image of the glowing studio in our minds, a testament to the women who worked there, a memory of their vibrancy, their hope, and their light. We honor them not by rushing to the tragedy, but by witnessing their days in the sun and their nights in the glow. Breathe in deeply, inhaling the peace of this suspended moment, and breathe out, letting go of any anticipation. We are simply here, watching the dust motes dance, watching the light endure. Lip, dip, paint. Lip, dip, paint. The rhythm continues, echoing softly in the corridors of time, a gentle percussion that underscores their lives. The brush touches the lip. The brush dips into the green. The brush touches the dial. Over and over again, a cycle of creation. There is no pain here yet, only the promise of a bright future, only the camaraderie of friends, only the magic of the undark. Let yourself float in this glowing reverence, appreciating the stillness, the quiet beauty of a time gone by, as we prepare to move deeper into their story. But not just yet. For now, we stay in the light. And so, the seasons turn, gentle leaves falling outside the studio windows, marking the passage of time. The golden light of the 1920s begins to lengthen, casting longer shadows across the workbenches. We are still in the room, still watching the meticulous dance of the brush, but the air feels different now, heavier. The dust motes still drift in the sunbeams, but they seem to carry a weight, a silent burden that settles softly on the shoulders of the women who work there. The rhythm remains. Lip, dip, paint. It is a comforting cadence, a heartbeat of the factory that has become second nature. But within the bodies of these dial painters, another rhythm is beginning to falter. It starts quietly, almost imperceptibly, a subtle shift in the melody of their lives. It is not a sudden crash, but a slow erosion, like the wearing down of a stone by a persistent stream. Fatigue arrives first. Not the pleasant tiredness that comes after a day of honest work, the kind that makes a bed feel like a sanctuary. This is different. It is a deep, abiding weariness that seeps into the marrow. It is a fog that clouds the mind and makes the limbs feel as though they are moving through water. The girls, young and vibrant, find themselves needing to rest more often. They pause between brushstrokes, staring out the window, wondering why the energy of youth feels so distant, so suddenly out of reach. Then comes the ache. It centers in the jaw, a dull, throbbing presence that refuses to be ignored. At first, it is dismissed as a trifle, a toothache, a common nuisance in a time before modern dentistry had perfected its craft. They visit the local dentists, sitting in the chairs with the same stoicism they bring to the studio. Teeth are extracted, one by one. The hope is for relief, for the pain to vanish so that the rhythm of life can resume. But the relief does not come. Instead, the wounds refuse to heal. The gums remain tender, angry, and the ache deepens, spreading like a dark ink through water. It is a confusing time, a time of questions without answers. Why would the body, so young and strong, begin to unravel? Molly Maggia, the spirited girl we watched laughing earlier, becomes the center of this quiet mystery. Her suffering is not a spectacle, but a slow, heartbreaking decline witnessed by those who love her. She moves slower now. The spring in her step is gone, replaced by a fragile caution. Her friends watch her with concern, sharing whispered worries over their lunch breaks. They see the shadow in her eyes, a look of bewilderment. She does not understand what is happening to her, and neither do the doctors. The medical men, in their white coats and sterile offices, are baffled. They look at the symptoms, the anemia, the decaying bone, the inexplicable exhaustion, and they try to fit them into the boxes of known ailments. They suggest rheumatism. They suggest poor hygiene. In hushed tones, some even suggest syphilis, a diagnosis that carries a heavy stigma, casting a veil of shame over the innocent. It is a misunderstanding of tragic proportions. The doctors are looking for familiar enemies, unaware that they are facing something entirely new, something born of the very element that was promised to be a cure-all. Through it all, the radium continues to glow. The irony is as thick as the factory air. The women are falling ill, their bodies failing them, yet they still shine. In the dark of their bedrooms, when the pain keeps them awake, they can look at themselves in the mirror and see the faint, greenish luminescence on their skin, in their hair. The ghosts are already there, haunting the living. The magic of the undark, once a source of delight and vanity, has become a silent marker of their condition. It is a beauty that burns, a light that consumes. The year 1922 arrives, and with it, the first great loss. Molly Maggia, her body exhausted, her spirit weary, breathes her last. She is only 24 years old. Her passing sends a ripple through the community, a cold wind blowing through the warmth of the studio. The death certificate is filled out with incorrect information, listing causes that have nothing to do with the glowing paint. The truth is buried, literally and metaphorically, under the earth. But the silence does not hold. It cannot. For Molly is not the only one. Other women begin to feel the same ache, the same bone-deep tiredness. The pattern begins to emerge, faint at first, like a constellation slowly revealing itself in the twilight. Grace Fryer, quiet and determined, feels the stiffness in her joints. She feels the looseness in her teeth, and she begins to wonder. The company, the United States Radium Corporation, maintains its stance. They are the titans of industry, the bringers of light. They have scientists and experts who assure the public and the workers that radium is safe, beneficial even. They commission studies, carefully curated to show only what they wish to be seen. When rumors of illness begin to circulate, they are met with denial. It is a wall of corporate silence, smooth and impenetrable. They suggest the girls are sickly by nature, or that their ailments are of their own making. It is a battle between the visible and the invisible, the visible wealth and prestige of the company against the invisible poison working its way through the women's bones. Yet, curiosity is a powerful force. A local health officer, suspicious of the rash of similar symptoms among young women who all shared the same employer, begins to ask questions. And then, a man named Dr. Harrison Martland enters the story. He is the chief medical examiner of Essex County, a man of science, rigorous and unyielding in his pursuit of facts. He does not settle for the easy answers. He does not accept the diagnoses of the past. Dr. Martland begins to look closer. He looks at the blood of the women. He looks at their bones. He realizes that the symptoms resemble those of radiation poisoning, something seen only in the rarest of cases involving X-ray pioneers. He begins to form a hypothesis, a terrifying connection between the glowing paint and the dying women. He realizes that the body, in its wisdom and confusion, mistakes radium for calcium. It absorbs the glowing element, taking it deep into the structure of the skeleton, building bone out of poison. Once it is there, it does not leave. It sits, radiating energy, destroying the bone from the inside out. The realization is a slow dawn, chilling and absolute. The lip-dip paint technique, encouraged for its efficiency, was a direct line of delivery. With every point of the brush, with every smoothing of the bristles between their lips, the women were ingesting death. A tiny amount, insignificant on its own, but cumulative. Day after day, year after year. The glowing paint was not just on them, it was of them. They had become living batteries, storing energy that was tearing them apart. As this truth begins to surface, the atmosphere in the studio changes irrevocably. The camaraderie is still there, but it is now bound by fear and shared suffering. The laughter has faded, replaced by the quiet anxiety of waiting. Who will be next? Is the ache in my knee just the weather? Or is it the radium? Is the loose tooth an accident? Or the beginning of the end? The women leave the factory. The studio, once a hive of activity, sees its workforce dwindle. But the connection between them remains. They are sisters in this tragedy, bound by the light they carry within them. They are no longer just workers. They are patients. They are victims. But, slowly, a spark of something else begins to ignite. Not a radioactive glow, but a fire of indignation, a resolve to be heard. They are told to be quiet. They are told to accept their lot. They are poor women fighting against a wealthy, powerful entity. The odds are stacked so high they disappear into the clouds. But these women, who spent their days painting time, realize that time is the one thing they no longer have to waste. We rest here for a moment, in the uneasy quiet of this realization. The sun has set on the golden era of the dial painters. The studio is dark, but the women are glowing brighter than ever, a spectral testament to a trust betrayed. We feel the weight of their physical pain, but we also feel the gathering strength of their spirits. They are fragile, yes. Their bones are brittle, their bodies weak. But within that fragility, a steel spine is forming. The doctors may have been confused, the company may be in denial, but the women know. They know their own bodies. They know the truth of what they experienced. And as the middle of the decade approaches, they prepare to do the unthinkable. They prepare to speak up, to step out of the shadows and into the harsh light of the courtroom. Breathe in the stillness of this resolve, the quiet before the storm. Honor the memory of Molly and the courage of Grace. The tragedy has been revealed, the mystery solved by the cold lens of science, but the story is not over. The fight for justice, for recognition, for the dignity of their remaining days is about to begin. We hold space for them here, in the glow of the aftermath, waiting for their voices to rise. And so, the silence is broken. It begins not with a shout, but with a whisper that refuses to fade. The resolve of the women, particularly Grace Fryer, becomes a steady current beneath the surface of everyday life. Imagine the slow passing of seasons as they search for a voice, for someone who will listen to a story that sounds like a dark fairy tale. They move through a world that wants to look away, a world that prefers the comfortable fiction of industry over the uncomfortable truth of the body. But Grace is patient. She carries the truth in her very bones, a heavy, glowing burden that she is determined to lay down before the eyes of the world. There is a deep sense of stillness in this struggle. It is the stillness of a library, where dust motes dance in shafts of afternoon light, and the turning of a page sounds like a thunderclap. Grace and her friends, the women we have come to know and care for, finally find an ally. A young lawyer, willing to stand where others would not. Picture the scene in his office, the smell of old paper and polished wood, the scratching of a fountain pen across a legal pad. It is a quiet sound, rhythmic and small, yet it is writing the future. It is carving a path toward justice. The lawsuit is filed. The news ripples out, slowly at first, then widening like circles in a pond. The headlines call them the Legion of the Living Dead, a sensational name, but let us look past the ink and the newsstands. Let us look at the women themselves. They are no longer just workers in a studio. They are figures of immense dignity. They are too weak to walk without aid, their bodies fragile as dried leaves, yet they dress with care. They pin their hair, they smooth their dresses, and they prepare to face the massive machinery of the corporation. There is a meditative quality to the courtroom scenes. It is not a place of chaos, but a chamber of revelation. The air is cool and still. The wood of the benches is smooth against the hand. When Grace takes the stand, or when she is too ill to attend and must give her testimony from her bedside, the world leans in to listen. The doctors for the company speak of unrelated ailments, of coincidences, but the women speak of the paint, the brush, the taste of the grit between their lips. They speak of the glow. And here, the science steps forward to meet them. The very element that destroyed them becomes their witness. In the quiet laboratories, experts exhale a breath of air from the lungs of the former dial painters onto an electrometer, and the needle jumps. The evidence is undeniable. The radioactive breath, the glowing bones, it is all speaking a language that can no longer be ignored. The invisible has become visible. The mystery is dissolved in the clear water of truth. As the case stretches on, time seems to slow down. The summer heat presses against the windows of the courthouse. The women are tired, so very tired. We can feel their exhaustion, a heavy, warm blanket pulling them toward rest. They are fighting not for a cure, for they know a cure will not come, but for the peace of acknowledgement. They are fighting so that the world will say, "We see you. We believe you. You were right." And finally, that moment arrives. It comes not with a bang, but with the quiet scratch of a pen on a settlement agreement. The company settles. The women are granted compensation, a pension for the remainder of their days, and coverage for their medical care. It is a victory. Perhaps it feels small against the scale of their loss, but in the grand tapestry of history, it is a monumental shift. It is the moment the worker was seen. It is the moment the invisible danger was named. Let yourself drift now, away from the courtroom, away from the legal papers and the headlines. Let us follow these women home. The fight is over. The burden of proof has been lifted from their shoulders. Imagine the relief, cool and washing over them like a gentle rain after a long drought. They can rest now. They can sit on their porches in the twilight, listening to the crickets, watching the fireflies signal in the tall grass. The fireflies glow, blinking on and off in the darkness. A natural, bioluminescent light. It is a gentle reminder of the light the women carried. But now, the fear is gone from it. The story has been told. As the years pass, the women of the dial fade from this world, one by one slipping into the eternal sleep. But their legacy does not fade. It grows, blooming like a flower in the desert. Because of their courage, the laws begin to change. Because they spoke up, safety standards are written. Because they allowed their bodies to be studied, science learned how to protect the future. Think of the generations that followed. The workers in laboratories, the scientists of the atomic age, the people who work with hazardous materials today. They are safe, wrapped in a shield of protection that was forged by the Radium Girls. Every safety goggles, every lead apron, every strict regulation is a gift from Molly, from Grace, from Albina, from all of them. They are the silent guardians of the modern world. Their suffering was transmuted, through the alchemy of their courage, into safety for us all. We hold a space of gratitude for them now. We let the heavy emotions of their tragedy soften into a profound respect. The sharp edges of the story are worn smooth by the passage of time, leaving only the polished stone of their memory. Now, visualize the earth where they rest. The cemeteries are quiet, peaceful places where the trees stand guard and the grass grows soft and thick. In the deep quiet of the night, under the canopy of the stars, there is still a faint energy there. If one were to take a Geiger counter to their graves, even today, nearly a century later, it would click. A soft, rhythmic sound. Do not let this frighten you. Instead, reframe it in your mind. Think of it as a heartbeat. Think of it as a nightlight that never burns out. In the utter darkness of the earth, they are still glowing, not with the sickly green of the factory, but with the starlight that lives within all matter. They have become part of the cosmos again. The radium has a half-life of 1,600 years. For 1,600 years, their bones will hold this light. It is a testament to their endurance. Long after the factory is crumbled to dust, long after the names of the company executives are forgotten, the women will still be shining. They are the lighthouse keepers of history, warning us, guiding us, glowing in the dark. Feel the peace of that permanence. The story is complete. The circle is closed. The truth came to light, and the light remains. Breathe in deeply, inhaling the fresh, clean air of the present moment. Feel the safety of your own room, the comfort of your own bed. You are safe. You are protected. You are resting in a world that is a little bit kinder, a little bit wiser, because these women lived. Let the image of the glowing dial fade now, transforming into the soft face of the moon, watching over the world in silent vigil. The shadows are just shadows. The light is just light. The stillness is absolute. Drift on this river of time, floating past the history, past the pain, past the struggle, into the wide, open ocean of sleep. The voices are quiet. The courtroom is empty. The books are closed. Rest in the knowledge of their peace. Rest in the glow of their memory. Rest and let the darkness cradle you, soft and safe and deep. Good night.